This is going to be a video on me building a Jewish star, a Star of David, a 6-point star. I am not a woodworker. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I have spent a ton of money on hand saws. I don't want to do this with a miter saw, but hopefully this is going to come out to be a nice project. I don't want to waste a lot of money on good wood because I don't know if this is going to work, and I don't know if it does work if I want to reproduce this again. So what I have done is, you can pick any size you want. Check out my channel. I did a video on how to come up with an exact geometrically correct Star of David, Jewish star, 6-point star. And so you can figure out your dimensions. With this, I didn't even mess with that. I'm just winging it right now, trying to see if this can work. So what I've got is I have 6 pieces. All of them are the exact same length. The star, when you're making a Jewish star, these angles are 60-degree angles. You will probably not find a miter box. I have a miter box that I show on my channel. I did a review on it. It's tiny. It's very difficult to use. You probably won't find a miter box that's 60 degrees except for the one that I showed you. You can use a protractor or an angle and try to come up with the best angles you can. And if they're not clean angles, this is not going to come together and it's going to look terrible. That's why I don't think it's going to work for me. All of these cuts, let me get this. Most of the cuts that I'm making are being done with this tiny little Japanese pull saw. It's ridiculous. It's taking me hours and days to get where I'm going. So let me show you. I'm not a woodworker. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am an expert though when I'm on YouTube, but off YouTube I am not an expert. And so you want to start with 6 pieces of wood. Now anybody with a saw, anybody with a miter saw that knows how to make a 60-degree angle with a jig, because miter saws usually don't make 60-degree angles. You need a jig for that. And I just don't want to buy a miter saw. I don't want to deal with the power. I don't want to deal with power tools. I don't want to deal with things slamming in my face or hurting my fingers, or I just want to stay in one piece while I'm still on this earth. So I'm trying to hold off on power tools, but a miter saw would make this really easily. After you get your 6 pieces with your 60-degree angles, and okay, so that's not going to look good. Obviously, this isn't going to work, is it? No. That is where we come to our next part, which is going to be, I believe it's called a lap joint or a half lap joint. And the idea behind a lap joint is you're gouging out half of something on one side and gouging out or cutting out half of something on the other side so that it all fits together. And that is what's going to happen with all 6 of these pieces. Right now, I'm just trying to deal with the first 3, because if I can get the first 3 together, then I'm going to have to start doing calculations on where to gouge out the other 3 to make this work. All 6 pieces are the same. They all have 60-degree angles. They're all going to be the same length. On the left side, we are going to cut out, that's going to be the lap. We're going to cut out on this side on the top of the board, and on the bottom we're going to cut out on this side, and that's going to be halfway. You're probably saying, what the heck is this guy talking about? He's making no sense. Well, I am making sense. So what's going to happen? Let's just assume, well, let's go with this part first. You don't want this to look like this. That's terrible. So what we're going to do, and this is the same on all 6 pieces. This all pieces, everything goes the same way as you're putting this together. So we're not going to be, you could do this where you were lining it up like this, but this looks terrible. So what we're going to do on this piece is we're going to go in here on the bottom section, and we are going to angle, we're going to cut out the bottom of this board. We're going to cut out a bottom of this, and we're going to cut out half of the piece on the top of this, so that when we cut those pieces out. Instead of this board being like this, it will mesh together. So we'll cut out this part, and we'll cut out this part, and it will all be one piece that will all hook together. Not easy to do, very easy to do if you have a miter saw, an absolute nightmare if you don't. And that you run into a lot of problems. This is going to be a long video. If you don't want to make this thing or hear it, then just shut the video off and don't get upset with me. If you want to learn how to do this or stay with my journey, that would be cool. So what I'm going to end up doing on the back of this, since we need to gouge out the front part, I'm going to line this thing up, get it perfectly even, and then I'm going to mark over here so I know what section has to be cut out, which is going to be this line. But you want to do this with each piece, unless you're really good with this or you've got an accurate saw. I'm just thinking that each piece might be off a fraction, and I'm going to have to be really careful. So I've got this line marked. I'll do that again before I cut. And then what you're going to have to do is go over here, from this line, over here, over here, over here, and you are going to be literally breaking out half this board. How do I do that? I've got some saws that are good, but you've got to take good measurements. Now again, if you had a power saw or a table saw, you could go in here and cut this all the way down halfway, and it would look absolutely beautiful. You're doing it with a handsaw like me, it's going to be a total nightmare. But you want it to be perfectly even on that side. This is going to be on the bottom. You want it to be, what was this? Perfectly even on the front side over here, so that this whole thing will, that's why it's called a half lap joint. It will, half of it on one side, half on the other. This thing will mesh together and it will be one piece down here like that, but it will, you understand. And that's going to be the same all the way around with all 6 pieces. So we'll do the same thing over here, where we will, what are we going to do? We're going to cut out the back of this one. So like over here we're cutting out the back. The left side we cut out the back. Right side we cut out the top. Left side we cut out the back. Right side we cut out the top. And the whole thing is going to come together as your top star, and then you're going to do the exact same thing with this. But this is where it gets really tricky if you don't have power saws, is after you get, let's just assume all 3 of these pieces are together right now. After we get this together, then we have to start dealing with meshing the other part together. And that is where it gets really tricky, because we're doing the same thing, but we're going to be doing a cut, like I said, on the left and a cut on the right. The left side is the top that we're gouging out, right side is the bottom. So let's say that we're cutting out the top part. What you're going to have to do, it's the exact same thing. You're going to be going, it's so tricky. You're going to be cutting out the top part over here, and you're going to be cutting out the bottom part over here. And if you do this whole thing the right way, you're going to get a star. It might not be accurate. I don't know what's going to happen with mine, but this is my video. I'll save this until this whole thing over here probably took me a week to do, 2 weeks, because I'm doing this strictly with miniature hand saws, and you got to be careful. You want clean 60-degree angles. If you don't have a clean 60-degree angle, that doesn't really look good right now. So you can see it meshes together, but it's a little bit too long. It's definitely a little bit too long. So I didn't realize that at the time. Some of these pieces are too long. I'm going to make it work however I can, and I'll update you. The next step for me is going to be cutting out the back and the front on all 6 of these pieces, really, because this is all going to have to, all of them, it's the exact same thing. And then after I get all 6 of these pieces, decide which ones I want to put where, then we're going to start doing the cutting out here and here. If this video is enjoyable, I'm not going to say if it helps you. If you like it, thumbs up, subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Donations are accepted in the video description, along with the affiliate links if you want to click on them. Thanks for watching. This will probably be an extremely long video. Part 1.